WFH to WFA, work from home and work from anywhere. It was I actually moderated a panel about in November last year at HR Asia Forum, and we talk about WFA and WFH and what are the things the company is doing. But what I realized is that a lot of these are actually very physical changes. Like, for instance, having more technology at home for people to work from home, having a better scheduling system to enable people to, like you, slot in time. We're having people physically in the office and then we're rotating them. All this is more about technology, taking videos, but there is almost virtually no discussion on how, they should prepare their workers mentally, especially on the personality side. What are they to tweak or to watch out for, or to to build upon to actually to work in the new normal, so to speak, the WFE and WFH. So what's the thought about that, Nick, actually, in that area of WFH and WFA?
Yeah, that I completely agree. Everybody, the past 5-10 years, everyone has been really focused about AI technology and how it's bringing new changes to the world. But not many people ask about, for one, are we as humans ready for that change, first of all? And more specifically in an organization, are my employees ready? Have I set them up for success?
Yes.
And coping as well with those changes. So I'll give you an example with the work from home situation. So there are some studies that I've seen, very small studies, as this is a new kind of concept, but about what kind of personalities do people need to have in order to work better at home. You always hear some people saying like, well, I need the office in order to concentrate, or I need to know that I need to go somewhere, go to the office in order to wake up on time. So we tend to see that those individuals who score, lower on conscientiousness, they have a hard time kind of being on time, or being on their computer, or working at that particular time period that they're supposed to be,
Right.
because they're just too flexible. They're a little bit more adaptive with whatever's coming. So when people are moved away from the office and now they're allowed to work from home, it kind of removes that structure that was enforced by the organization. So that regardless of whether you're a very timely person or a not timely person, you still have to come in at 9. But now we've removed that restriction. It's kind of like you're on your own. It's based on you to come in on time to work or start working at what you want to do. And you always hear these stories of some people saying, "Oh, I'm supposed to work at 9, but I wake up at 9:15 and I shower and then I get on my desk at maybe at 10 and then maybe take a nap." Like, you hear these stories of people, right? And that's something that leaders and organizations don't want to hear.
Yep.
But that's the truth, right? That's the truth of the matter, is that when you start removing these restrictions, or these impose these rules to your employees, then these traits start to take over, and that's how you see their working style place. That's one. Another part is that we have to remember that humans are social beings.
Yes.
And that coming to the office is not just about work. There's also a social component. There's leisure time when you're at lunch talking to your colleagues, or in between breaks, you start talking to your colleagues and just about whatever, right? There's a social component. And so we see that individuals who are highly extroverted, which means they love to be around people all the time, or they need that social interaction to feel good, they start to feel very depressed, or they just don't like it. They hate working at home. They miss the office, or they miss their colleagues. And so that's something that's kind of taken away from them when they're pushed to work from home. So work from home specifically, maybe not work from anywhere, but when you're isolated at home, that could happen. Whereas individuals who are lower on extroversion, so they're more introverted, let's say, they don't need that social interaction, or they don't want to be in big groups, they might cope better by working from home.
Right.
Sometimes that social gatherings or social interactions may cause them a little bit of anxiety.
Okay. Yep.
So honing in on the individual and what their predispositions are can ultimately tell you, how successful they might be working from home, or if they can.
I see. All right, Nick.
All right. We understand from you that something traumatic could actually affect our personality and move us towards or leaning towards the dark side, so as to say. Okay, and of course, coupled with the pandemic, coupled with this work from home, the physical changes to the office, the working environment, all this add to the stress of it. Does all this directly affect how innovative corporate is? That's
I
the
think
question.
I think it will, but again, it will be different. So
Will it demote it? Will it make it worse or actually encourage make it better?
it depends.
Okay,
It depends. So I hate using that word. It depends, but it really does depend on what is the situation
all
like.
right, we are hearing you. Okay,
I'll give you an example.
all right.
So there are traits in the dark side where people are just extremely creative or they're extremely imaginative. They love to play new ideas.
All right.
And at first glance, you would think that, someone who is really up in the clouds and playing with new and novel ideas, that's what we want in corporate innovation, right? Because at the heart of it in our organization is that we want people to think outside the box. We want them to not build off our current products. We want them to build new products from scratch. But when you start going to the extreme end, and especially if you have a lot of people who are on this extreme end, you start hearing ideas that, although are very, creative, the next question is that, is it possible? Or are you just playing with ideas that just are a complete fantasy, right? We would all love it if we can build an Iron Man suit that makes us fly wherever we want or across the world. But is that physically possible today? Or more specifically, is that something that our company has the resources and technology to do now, right? And that's one of the dangers of when you have someone who is extremely imaginative
All
and
right.
you let them kind of push to the extreme, is that you start maybe not receiving those more practical ideas. So that's one thing that could be a danger. The other thing that could be a danger in dark side is that we also see people who are extremely conforming to rules and they need to kind of be in that box. So, I mean, you kind of see that already in bigger organizations who have a lot of processes, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of rules that they need to follow before anything really gets done. And that, again, also stifles creativity, because if I'm not allowed to kind of step beyond my bounds or or play around with what beyond what is currently limited to me, how can that spark creativity? How can that spark innovation? Oh, sorry.
No
Cleaning
problem.
the gas station can come in as I know.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, but
sorry.
it's a very interesting discussion. So basically, what I understand from what you tell us, Nick, is that in order for innovation to happen, innovation first must not be a stressful situation for both either people with the bright personality or the dark personality, right? Number one. Sorry, for the people with, it must not be a stressful situation for anybody so that it does not go into the extreme of a dark personality. The second part is you're saying is that it is kind of important to have actually a mixture of people with dark personality and coupled with a mixture of people with the bright personality as well. You must have a balance of this group of people to make innovation happens in a corporate. Is that what is my understanding correct, actually, Nick?
It's more about having a balance. I think that's key, right? Like, for example, coming back to our first conversation about narcissism. So the CEO that I immediately think of is Elon Musk, right? We cannot deny that that he's not successful. He's one of the most
Right.
successful
Very successful.
CEOs, and I think he's now the richest man on earth.
Right.
So there is a level of success when you have someone who's possessing maybe a dark side trait, and we see dark side traits leading to positive outcomes. But there must be a balance, right? You can't have all your entire C-suite being narcissists, right? You need someone maybe to be more grounded, or you need someone to have to help manage what happens once we create this new idea? We need to implement it. We need to execute it. We need to ensure that it would work, right? At the same time, maybe you need someone who can maintain public image for your company, for company branding, or things like that. Having extremes can help, but having too many extremes is detrimental. I think that's the key. So when you, as an organization, when you're looking to foster corporate innovation, it's not just saying, just find the most creative people and put them in a team. That is not what we're saying. Right? Maybe you need one or two, but you need someone else who can help execute the idea, keep the team grounded, right? Because get someone maybe that's a little bit more skeptical or down to earth to help kind of pull back the ideas. And that's how you can foster a team that will create innovation in the organization. Right.
All right.
Right. It's wonderful to hear from Nick as well as Ivan yourself chipping in on this dark side personality. And we can see that, it's not that it's bad. We actually need a good mixture of different personality. A shade of black, maybe, shade of darks, a shade of white or bright.
Yeah.
And of course, so we can say that we can conclude that dark side personality in leaders doesn't really demote corporate innovation.
Too much might.
All right.
Too much might, but having a couple of guys or a couple of women who are in the dark side.
We need the oddballs. We need the oddballs.
you need some oddballs in there to help push for that. I mean, that's definitely something that's going to be okay. It's not something that you should be scared about.
Right. Yeah, fantastic. I think it's wonderful to hear your sharing. I think we have so much more to learn from Nick yourself on to talk a bit more on different personality, and also especially when it applies to cooperation and when it applies to entrepreneur. There's the area whereby I think there are a lot of the trend is there for people wanting to know more, because we are in the era whereby startups are so important. So Nick, thanks for the time, and we'll see you again next. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, and Ivan, thanks a lot. Bye.
Well, thanks, Nick, and all the best. And I think there is a lot of areas that will probably the corporate will need your expertise in, especially what we discussed just now about innovation and how COVID has actually probably bring a stronger need of a personality check or a way for employees to start working with this WFH or even WFA going forward. Thanks a lot, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for inviting me, guys.
Right.
Take care. Be safe. Be healthy.